Hey Vision Chasers, it's Dr. Byrd here with another social studies lesson for you today. During the age of imperialism, the bigger countries were in competition with each other to see who can colonize the most countries, who can collect the most resources. And the United States was late to this party, but when they arrived, they made the world take notice. Today, we're going to talk about the Spanish-American War. Now, this all begins with a small country called Cuba. Now, at the time, Cuba was occupied by Spain. Now, Spain is a European country. Now, obviously, the people of Cuba, they wanted their independence, and Spain was unwilling to give the people of Cuba their independence. Now, you would ask, how does this affect the United States? And that's a really good question. By 1897, United States investors had about $50 million invested in Cuba. Now, this is in sugar plantations and other businesses around Cuba. Now, the growing tension between the Cubans who wanted their independence and Spain was a threat to American business interests. In the middle of this fighting, United States property was destroyed. Now, many Americans supported the Cubans in their fight for independence because it reminded them of how the United States began. But unfortunately, Presidents Cleveland and McKinley were unable to find a peaceful solution. When President McKinley actually asked the Spanish government to ensure peace, he was harshly criticized in a famous U.S. history document called the Delome Letter. Now, things were intensified when this letter was published in the newspaper. Obviously, this would anger Americans against the Spanish, and it would further the calls for war between the United States and Spain. Now, there was a purpose in publishing this letter. This letter is a part of what was called yellow journalism. Now, yellow journalism is a reference to a famous comic strip at the time. And this comic strip was so popular, and the main character in this comic strip was called the Yellow Kid. And the newspaper that had this comic strip was able to draw more readers in because of this comic strip. Yellow journalism draws people in to consume and read the newspaper because the purpose of yellow journalism is to exaggerate the facts and sensationalize them. So here's some other things that newspapers did to stir up controversy and compel people to want to go to war against the Spanish. They reported of stories of starving women and children. They made up stories that American women who were traveling on boats were being strip searched by the Spanish soldiers. They also talked about how Cubans were being tortured. And most of these things turned out to be not true. But the newspapers, they wanted to sell papers, and so they used yellow journalism in order to increase their sales. Now, shortly after the Delome Letter was made public to the American people, the American ship, the USS Maine, exploded off the coast of Cuba, killing 266 people. Now, this ship was there simply to protect American interests. So this ship mysteriously explodes, and with the help of yellow journalism, the Spanish are blamed for the death of these 266 people. Now, shortly afterwards, the United States declares war on Spain on April 11th, 1898. Now, because of imperialism, this war was fought in multiple countries. The first major victory for the United States in this war was off the coast of Spanish-controlled Philippines. Now, shortly after the United States Navy engaged in the fight off the coast of the Philippines, the Spanish surrendered. Now, back in Cuba, in June of 1898, 17,000 United States soldiers were landing. Now, one of those 17,000 was a future president and a face of Mount Rushmore. His name was Theodore Roosevelt. Now, he was part of a group called the Rough Riders, and these men were cowboys, and they were upper class men from the East Coast. Now, Roosevelt himself was from New York. Now, the Rough Riders were famous for charging up San Juan Hill in Cuba, and shortly after the Rough Riders took San Juan Hill, another group of Spanish soldiers surrendered. Shortly after San Juan Hill, the United States moved on to Puerto Rico and conquered that. And that, again, was another Spanish-controlled territory. So the fighting of the Spanish-American War ended with the signing of the Treaty of Paris, 1898. Now again, this war started in 1898 and ended in 1898, so it was a very, very quick war. Now here are the terms of peace of this war. Spanish would give Cuba their independence, and Spain would also give control of Puerto Rico and the Pacific island of Guam to the United States. And lastly, Spain would sell the Philippines to the United States for $20 million. So for a war that would last less than a year, the United States received a lot in return. And so at this point, the United States has really arrived on the scene as far as imperialism is concerned. And so that is our social studies lesson for the day. I thank you so much for watching. Please check the Vision Chasers website for more tips and tools to help you as you chase your vision of success. Please feel free to download the worksheet that goes along with this video to help further your understanding of the Spanish-American War. Well, I'm Dr. Byrd. Thank you so much for watching, and please keep chasing the vision. Bye.